Welcome, everyone, to another show of Waking Up, conscious discussions about our changing reality. And today I have a very special guest. His name is Brian Rassi from Enstigate. And let me just back up a second. The reason that I wanted to do this topic on the show is because I believe that within our changing reality, that people are going to begin to relax in certain way, in some really good ways, and begin to feel some of those dreams that have been kind of suppressed in their hearts, because of, the way that our ending reality has kind of been constructed. So I feel that that individuals are going to, begin to realize, hey, you know what, I can start to, maybe this idea that I had so long ago is starting to percolate. I'm starting to feel it again. So I wanted to invite Brian on because he's awesome at what he does. My own business, Green Leaf Healing, has employed Brian because, I needed that guidance. I needed to know what are the steps. So I am, welcoming Brian Rassi, everyone.
Thanks,
And
Carolyn.
yeah, so Brian, I love your story. Tell us how you began Instigate. Now, first of all, was this, we're talking about, we are, our new reality is about consciously creating our life, our realities in a conscious way. So I know that, when it comes to Instigate, well, that it did start with a dream, didn't it?
It did, Carolyn. As your viewers might know, but of course, me and my late significant other, Imelda Arcelia, came up with Instigate years and years ago. I've been getting people money since 2004. I've kind of cut my teeth in all different financial products, residential mortgages, lines of credit. Then I transitioned into commercial loans, hard money loans, business loans, credit card loans, pretty much anything to do with financing up to insurance. And we even included insurance products now too. So we literally touch our hands in everything to do with money for a business owner, entrepreneur. But Imelda had another piece to it where she was more spiritually guided, and she was my spiritual guide. She was kind of like our in-house intuitive that would make sure that we were steering the right path years ago. And we came up with Instigate. And so every time I look at the logo, it reminds me of Imelda, since she's no longer with us. But we kind of bridged the gap. Like, we created a business that helps conscious business owners, entrepreneurs, get access to the right money at the right time in the right way, so they can finally fulfill that mission and vision for the business. And that can happen in so many different ways. So I'm very excited to be on here to help express and see where this conversation is going to lead us.
Yes. And you know what? Also, I think just as, if not more so important about what you do is your guidance. Okay, because now we're going to do, and we talked about doing another show about, what do you do when you have all this money, on various levels. But I think that, just having some of these step-by-step guides of, what do you need to, to really get started and really get moving. And, I went back up because you brought up wonderful Imelda. I always got to add in the reason that I got connected with Brian was through Imelda. Back in 2012, we connected, and because we were both in spiritual worlds, so we just became really good buddies. And it's so she's kind of told me about the journey with Instigate, and so it's really very, very beautiful. So anyways, but it all makes sense. And, Instigate is something that is unique and we need more of, because in business, we need to bring that conscious element into it. We need to bring that spiritual piece into that, for it to really, grow into or manifest into something that's not only, wonderful for the individual or the company, but all individuals that it touches as well. So it just becomes, more, the capability of what is possible can become much more. So, Brian, so next question I have for you is, let's say, okay, I've got all kinds of dreams, that I've had for a long time, and they've kind of been suppressed, and now all of a sudden they're starting to percolate upwards again, and tapping me on the shoulder. How would you advise me, or people in the audience that are having this experience or are about to have this, because I think that more people will be waking up to this. How would you advise, what would be, some of the first initial steps of implementing, of manifesting, those dreams?
Great question, Carolyn. There was a study done. There's many studies done, but 90% of all businesses, even when they come up with a plan, they fail to execute that plan. So, and there was another study done on how to create a plan and what are the percentages when you create a plan. So I'm going to go through a couple percentages, and this is my advice for anyone who's getting the impetus to create something. Is you first got to put it down on paper. You first got to write out what you really, really, really want. And I would say in the end result, like, how do you see this business down the road? And you want to get it down on paper for all the right reasons. And I'm going to go through them. First, you got to come up with the idea. Just becoming of the idea is like a 10% chance is this thing's going to actually happen. 20% is you start like twiddling it down onto paper. That doesn't mean it's fully vetted out, but that's 20% that you start actually putting a pen to paper, that you're writing it out. Then there's going to be a point where you actually decide, I'm going to do this. Okay. That gives you about a 40% chance of completing it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then you can actually put it on a full-fledged plan. Like, you actually write out, you think, you go through, like, I'm creating a business idea, a plan, or at least a PowerPoint slide or something's being written out, and you're thinking through all the steps. You got a 50% shot from getting that completed. Yeah. Then you actually articulate this to someone. Like, you commit, like I say, Carolyn, I'm committing to you that I'm going to go create this business. I'm going to go create this dream. I got a 65% chance of making that thing happen per the percentages. But
so sharing that dream.
Yeah, to share that. I share that dream with you, Carolyn, or I share that with my spouse, or I share that with my business partner. Hey, I'm committing to you. I'm going to show up each and every day to make this vision and dream come to life. But there's one extra kicker. And I think this is the most impetus. This is what I call power of aligned actions, Carolyn, is if I commit to you that I say, Carolyn, I'm committed to do this business plan. Hey, can we show up next week and kind of go over what progress was made, on this plan? I jump from 65% to a 95% success rate if I have an accountability partner to actually create this plan. So to answer your question, most dreams fall on a vine. You have a dream, you have this impetus, you get this urge. But if you really want to crystallize it, if you really want to bring that thing to life, my advice is figure out what that is, the end result of it, and work yourself back, getting a plan, getting it on paper, and then ultimately committing to yourself, not only to yourself, to someone else, and then ultimately getting that accountability partner. And that will give you a 95% success rate of actually birthing an idea and actually getting it into motion, into acceleration, into movement forward.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And, and because I've been involved in, in your product, it really does line up with, what some people understand as the laws of energy. Okay. We come up with an idea. Okay, our creative mind says, boom, or it's like our soul delivers, something. Hey, here's possibility. And so, that's just one step. But when we begin to really tune into that inner mind, okay, that's a step. And then we initiate that emotion, that excitement, that's the fuel that kind of helps it to grow a little bit more. And then putting it on paper, that's another step towards manifesting it in the physical reality. Okay. And then there are, all these other steps to promote that growth. And you know what? I think that I want to add to the, the accountability team, or, part of the team. I think calling in your guides and angels, God, because if it was birthed from your heart, then you know what? That is, to me, that's a gift from God. That is, that's in alignment with your soul and with creation. And that right there says, this is possible.
I agree.
Let's grow this. Let's become this, so, and then that, that product or that dream, it's about your own growth and your own maturity and learning process. And also that of, everyone else who's part of that journey and those that you touch,
Well, it's funny you bring up journey, Carolyn, because, Imelda she wrote an article years ago, and she did her last interview was on the soul evolves through entrepreneurship. The soul evolves through entrepreneurship. And her premise was it takes devotion. It takes the devotion is the superpower that sustains the rigorous challenge, as she would say, to actually lead you on this journey. When you actually get to become an entrepreneur, or you have this dream and you start implementing, you're going to be asked to grow through the process. And so I love how you said, ask your guides, ask them on a regular basis. That's one portion of accountability in the etheric world. But you also need to actually ground this physically in the action. There's two different types of actions. There's masculine actions. That's the physical actions. And then there's feminine actions. That's more of the mental, the emotional, the spiritual actions.
Intuitive.
Yes. The intuitive actions. Mm-hmm. So you have to take both actions consistently and be devoted to the end result. Mm-hmm. No one said it was going to be easy. No one said every business was going to be birthed on the idea of how you originally thought. It's the entrepreneurial journey that's going to uncover all those gifts and talents, uncover all those wants and desires, all in the same process as you move through your journey. Now, the question is how many guidance or guides do you want to be a part of this? Now, I have some distinct feelings about that. I ultimately believe that the entrepreneur, the business owner, is the ultimate guidance for their own journey. It's how they tap in intuitively to their guides to source, and how they tap in intuitively of attracting all the right people to help them on the entrepreneur journey to get moving forward. But it's definitely the soul evolves through entrepreneurship for sure.
I have to say, I agree with that, because we are the ones here. We are the ones steering the ship here physically. Okay. So, calling in our guides and angels and God for, to be, for assistance and guidance and being on the team, because we are here, boots on the ground, okay, so to speak. We are the ones steering this physical ship. So it comes back to, and see, the business that we develop, it's all tied into your own personal growth as well. And running into the blocks that you have within you, or, and on all of this, and you beautifully covered this in your program. So it's like, we got to get real with ourselves. So building a business is also about, expanding the self and getting real with the self. And while we're making our manifestation real, right?
Yeah. And now I want to add this caveat to everyone that's watching. No one said You have to be the master or the expert in all the areas of the business. That is not your role. Your role is to attract those pieces in together. This is a very distinct thing, is you're going to grow from the process of becoming a business owner. I promise you that. That is a given. Just by walking down the path of the journey, you're going to grow into that. But where the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs and business owners make in the beginning is thinking they have to be the know-it-all. They have to know it all. They have to be the heartbeat. You are the heartbeat that sets the mission and the vision and the dreams, but you are not at all stages the troops as well. You can implement troops and specialists and people to come in and support you once you have that plan written down and you have that end destination en route. So all energies are moving towards it. And if we can throw a little extra capital in there, then that will supercharge it as well.
Right. Right. So we're talking about surrendering.
Yeah.
You know, setting the course and allowing for the pieces to come into place. Because in setting the course, doing all those steps, we are utilizing then the law of attraction. So we will attract those people who are perfect for the next step and then the next step. And sometimes, you know, the person that helped you on step number one is not going to be right for step number two, you know. And so, you know, so I think that this is where and I myself, I can become rather rigid, and it really surprised me years ago when I noticed that about myself. And you know, when you see some of these things that are your own blocks, you're like, wow, I'm amazed. You know, it's almost like, yippee. I mean, I see it now. I see it. So I can do something about it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it comes back to, thinking something's got to be perfect or a certain way for something to move forward, where we have to be open to, you know what, let's just kind of trust that, the right pieces are going to fall into place, and we'll kind of go with that. And that's kind of like going with the flow of creation, right?
That's true. That's true. But you brought up a good point there, Carolyn, that I think we need to touch on for everyone is, you see, once you crystallize a vision and once you start taking action towards it, it's going to real life. And this is how we take in information anyway. We get triggered. We get triggered by people, thoughts, circumstances, video posts, social media posts, just our past experiences. This is how our brains work with our emotions. And so when we start taking action towards growing this business, creating this new venture, right, and start attracting in, we're going to get triggered. And what I mean by triggered is we're going to get activated, and there's going to be these old, unconscious, outdated, limiting beliefs that are going to get triggered. And you mentioned one, I need to be perfect. I'm not good enough. I'm not capable of doing this. I think a couple other ones. Let's see if I know. I'm unworthy is another one. I don't belong in this spot. Like these are self-sabotaging beliefs that are going to be triggered, that are going to try to keep you in this current space. It's like essentially your identity saying, hey, I'm safe right here. I don't want you to go forward, Brian, and make this thing happen. I don't want you to go forward, Carolyn, and make this thing happen, because that means I have to grow into something different. I don't want to do that. I'm used to this feeling. I mean, that's what we're saying by when you grow, the soul evolves through entrepreneurship. You need to become this person that you want to become in the journey of running a business or growing a business or creating something. So there's so many dynamics that goes out there. But the wonderful thing is you have a lot of people around you that can help you on this journey. You don't have to go at this thing alone anymore these days. It's amazing how we can be sitting here across the country and immediately we're on a Zoom call and we can communicate and actually address these things real time right here. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. That point that you brought up, it reminds me of, I've heard this several times, and I believe it's true, is that God gives us everything in our environment to keep us healthy, okay? Healthy and thriving, And so I believe that also applies to the people who are able to help you on your journey, whatever journey that is, whatever, applying to, thinking about starting your own business or, birthing your dreams. Everything is already there. You just have to, again, start to man that ship a bit, kind of really crystallize a little bit, those visions and things like that, but yet also be flexible because and that's part of the, so in my book, Re-entering Eden, I also touch on the masculine and feminine energies within the self. So the masculine is the action, right? Mm-hmm. And the feminine is that intuitive piece that understands the flow of creation and when to take action. When it's resting and then boom, time to go. There's the opportunity. Go for it.
Yeah, and actually trusting.
And then sometimes you gotta wait a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I believe that everything is already there. And that's another piece, is that we have to allow ourselves to be open to, for those pieces, to attract those pieces. Okay. And sometimes those pieces or those people are not what we had envisioned in our perfect vision. Sometimes it's quite different, isn't it?
But once again, that goes back to that's called the evolution. Like what you envision and what you attract are two different things as you get going and going. And remember, you're always fine-tuning your vision. You're always fine-tuning your mission. And that's what part of writing it down on a piece of paper is all about, is first articulating your thoughts on, this is something I really want to do. I remember very distinctly, Carolyn, when Imelda passed away, and I was contemplating what I was going to do with Enstigate. And I needed to crystallize my vision again. So I literally went back to the business plan. I rewrote out my vision and mission for the business plan. I rewrote out the performance. I remember I was sitting on the couch with my two cats, Nina and Callie at the time. And I was looking at this business plan. I was looking at the performa, and this feeling came over me like, man, I got this. Like, this thing is going to happen. Like, I felt so confident at that moment in time because everything was in alignment on paper, on realistic my belief systems of what I knew we could do and how I saw it. Now, to answer your question, now fast forward, 3.5 years later, 4 years later after that moment, I've changed our business plan so many times. Every 6 months, this thing gets updated. That's my point, is you're always going to be refining what you're doing out there in the marketplace. You're always growing. You're always attracting. And you're like, oh, that didn't work. Okay, that's cool. Well, just revise it and try this one. And then all of a sudden, oh, that worked really well. Let's double down on that, and that's how you grow and evolve through the process.
Yes. And, I've been involved in a few different projects too, where some people see, it didn't work out the way that we thought it was going to work out. And a lot of people saw it as a failure. And I always have to correct them. So no, it's not. It is not. We learned so much. We made more connections. There's so much that, that came from that. And so those pieces continue to evolve in the next venture, in the next piece of this.
Absolutely.
So to me, I think we never actually fail at anything. It's how we are perceiving. Because we're always just learning. We're learning, and we have to be able to be, we have to allow ourselves to make mistakes and be okay with it, because that's part of the growing process.
I agree. And Karen, I have a book coming out called Lack or Success. And this is a great transition into that. I spent literally 2.5 years, tens of thousands of dollars, even more hours to understand the fundamental root of what failure is. And more importantly, how to decipher where you're at in the journey of a failure to success cycle journey to actually work your way out of it into how you want that outcome to become. But the root cause of all failure is the lack portion of it. It's lack. It's not failure. The failure is the byproduct of it. It's the lack of something, lack of knowledge, lack of money, lack of support, lack of love, lack of direction. I mean, there's so many different things that is the impetus of where you're headed. But when you have a plan and you're moving towards it, you might not have all the pieces. You might lack the talent. You might lack that capital source. You might lack that true knowing of the business model. But as you take action towards it, you are gaining wisdom and knowledge along the way that gets refined. Lack gets filled. You get to learn from that. You actually move a step forward. All of a sudden, another lack of time. You might have to bring on more people. Like that's another thing that is an impetus. So I just want everyone to know that you're not supposed to have all the answers, but you are supposed to understand when you do have that intuitive hit, this is something I want to do. And when you get that intuitive hit that someone to do, take the action to start writing it on paper. Start moving that forward. And if you really feel in your heart, you really feel in your soul, you really feel in your gut that this is something that you should be doing, then start moving towards that and start attracting all the right pieces in all the right places. And I promise you that right person will show up at the right time to address you and move it this way and move it this way and move it this way until you ultimately get this thing going.
Yeah. And you just got to hang in there.
Yeah.
You just got to hang in there. And, it's believing too. Believing in yourself, believing. And when you can't believe in yourself, believe in that dream, that intuitive nudge towards it. There's a reason for it. And so just believe in that. It's like when I was writing, Reentering Eden, there were times when I was like so frustrated. But then you know what? I just realign with what the energy of what the book is meant to be. Because what we are creating is its own entity. It has energy and it has a heart. There is, it's something that's very real. And so when we at least believe in that, if we have trouble believing in ourselves and our ability, and we have all these lack issues, I always say, just plug into what you are building. Believe in that. Get out of the way, because that's another thing. We get in our own way, don't we?
We are the bottlenecks. We are the bottlenecks of the business. I promise you that if I told you how many times I've cut the thing off from going forward, it would be like, there's a list longer than the street, of how many times I was the bottleneck of growth of Enstigate, and still am, and I think that's ultimately part of the journey is first putting in a plan together, moving it forward, taking masculine feminine actions, attracting all the right people, discerning what to do next, reinventing, moving forward, being devoted to this end pivotal result, and just trusting that you don't have to have all the answers. You just got to keep honing in on that true end result of what you're really trying to do. And I think, Carolyn, to bring it full circle to the impetus of what started here is, you're right. People are going to be triggered to start something new. It happens all the time. You get laid off. You can't find the right opportunity out there. Maybe your schedule changes. Maybe you have to work from home and you're a single parent. And you're like, I can't go out here. So I have to create something from home. Like, there's so many reasons why someone would get the urge to do something. Just honor your urge, honor your intuitive hits, and just keep moving forward and attract all the right people. You don't have to have all the answers, but the only thing you do need to have is devotion. Devotion is the superpower that sustains the rigorous challenge. Remember, that's the light at the end of the tunnel that's going to keep you on moving forward to accelerate. That's my best advice if you're creating a business these days.
Excellent. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. And you know what? I'm going to have Brian on a few more times. Because we were connecting yesterday, and Brian came up with all kinds of other great ideas, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna do a show on that too, and a show on that. So we will hear a lot more from Brian Rassi from Enstigate. So and if you want to connect with Brian, if you want to learn more about Enstigate, I will have his contact information and website link and all of that at the end of the podcast, and also it'll be in the links in wherever in all the platforms that I'm sharing this. So Brian, thank you so much for being here. And do you have anything else that you want to add or say to wrap this up?
I think this is a great segue for all those that want information right away and want it pretty quick. We created this wonderful funding possibilities guide, Carolyn. And this is where if you get the urge to start something, it first starts with understanding what is possible. And so we created this wonderful funding possibilities guide that helps show you what funding sources you should be looking at as you create this vision at whatever stage you're at. To get that wonderful guide, you just need to just open up the text on your phone, type in a 6-digit number called 411321, 411321, and then you just need in the body of the text, write one word called possible, POSSIBLE, and text it. It will ask you for your email address. Boom, put your email address one time, and you'll get this wonderful emailed PDF guide into your email box that will show you exactly how to start on this vision that you got the impetus. So 441321 is the 6-digit number. Type the word possible, funding possibilities guide. And that is the great first place to start.
Awesome. And I will also include that at the end of this video as well.
All right,
so
cool.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, that's a wonderful gift to offer everyone.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone. And thank you again, Brian, for coming on and sharing your wisdom and this great conversation. Like I said, we're going to have more of these kinds of conversations. I think they're very, very important. But, until next time, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And I wish you all abundant blessings.